Ohio Investors Group. We are going live again here today. And the number one thing that most investors fail to do is what we're discussing. So let's just kind of dive right into that. We talk about if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We get a lot of new investors calling into us and talking to us about buying properties, and they immediately just want to start buying properties, but they don't look at the overall plan of what they're trying to achieve. Do you guys feel like that's accurate?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, how do I change there we go. So the goal, what is the goal when you're getting into investing? Are you looking for cash flows? Do you have a goal or an income that you're hoping to achieve? What is the time frame? Because if you have a goal and it's not measurable, is it really a goal? Will I be using the cash flow to live, or will I be using it for reinvesting? And then we talk about buying right. A lot of people, it seems like when they call in, they're looking for those cash flows, but do we take that extra step to really talk about, is this a retirement plan? Are we trying to quit our job in a few years? What is it that we're trying to do? What are you guys hearing when you're having conversations with investors?
Most people seem to just have random numbers that they throw out that they want per door per month, or they just got some random ROIs on cash.
Okay.
It is what I would normally hear.
When's the last time you guys heard, hey, I hope to have 10 properties within the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, we'll hear that periodically, or so many purchases within a given year.
But the next question is why? Why do you need 10 properties? Or should we be looking at it on, is there a goal, is there a number or something you're trying to achieve, and how do we get there? Because a lot of people don't understand those numbers, and they're always trying to buy one property that's going to create numbers that work for them. It's kind of like trying to hit a home run. Uh, all great investors tell you got to buy right in the first place. You got to buy a property that is well below market value. Well, in this market that we're looking at, is price ever really below market value? Do you come across those very often?
Come across some of them, but they're usually in really bad shape.
Really bad shape. Okay, and that's a fair way of looking at it. But what
Yeah,
if
that is not really below market value. It's based on the shape.
I love it.
Um,
That's exactly what I was looking for. Is it's just not
yeah,
really
no.
a great property.
If anything, I'll see them priced too high based on the return somebody can get today on that property. And
Okay.
sometimes that's going to make a difference of what we're going to offer on the property, not necessarily the comparables. It may be priced right for the comparables, but rates have made quite the move upward. So is it right for the person who wants a cash flow?
Right, right. So I ran some numbers. I just went a basic. This is how I would describe it to a new investor. Is look, or if you're trying to do this, either to quit your job in a number of years or to retire someday, and you want to make an extra $100,000 in income. Now that we know the number of where you need to be and when you need to be there, let's back into that. So we got $100,000 a year, which if you divide 100,000 divided by 12, you come up with $8,333 a month. How many deals do I need to achieve this is our next question. Am I hoping to do this with all home runs? Or could I do this with a bunch of base hits? If you're not a baseball fan, I'm sorry. I hope you at least know the basics so that that makes sense. But
Don't you get a base hit right before a touchdown?
exactly, that's exactly the type of person I was talking about. So if I'm trying to on my first deal get a home run, and I'm buying a $200,000 property, but I'm hoping to get 800 to $1,000 in cash flows, is that realistic? No, that doesn't really exist out there, in today's market at all. So what do we do to back into this? So that same person that wants to make $100,000 or an additional 8,333 a month, they need to understand that if I were to just take all the home runs out of the equation and I were to get $100 cash flow per door, that would equate, if I bought all duplexes, that would mean I'm getting $200 a month in cash flow from each of my properties. Very realistic. That can certainly happen. So if I'm getting $200 in cash flow per month for each door, how many units do I need to have in order to achieve $8,333 in extra income? Basic math tells me I'd need 42 units to achieve that number, correct? You guys all understand this. So if I need 42 units, that should be my goal over time, or is it? That's basic math. If you dive into this just a little bit further and you use compounding rent increases, which you should be doing, at 3%, really we should be using a 4 to 5% increase. But I'm using 3% just to be conservative. But in year one, you're getting $200 in cash flow for that property. In year two, that jumps to 206. Doesn't seem like much. Year three, we're at 212. But when you look over there at year 10, you're getting $260.93 in cash flows by simply increasing your rents by 3%. So $260.93 divided by 8,333 is what? Anybody? Anybody got a calculator out there? If you're not, I got it. It's about 32 units. So if I'm an investor and I've planned or failed to plan, I'm going to plan to fail because I don't know what an achievable goal is. If I were to get base hits all the way through at $200 a month in cash flow, I should be able to get about 32 units over the course of 10 years. And in year 10, if I increase those rents, I should be right around my goal of having $100,000 in income. Now, all I'm doing right here is I'm not increasing the rents by 3%. I'm only increasing my math only increases the cash flow by 3%. But what happens is if I were to increase $1,000 a month by 3%, what's that equate to? Anybody? $30.
$30.
So my point here is if I increase rents systematically, which all of the big companies do, if you go to a large apartment complex or you go to large rentals, most of the time built into their leases, there is an annual rent increase, correct?
Yeah.
So why, as individual investors, are we not planning to do that?
You know, I ran numbers on one today. The property was renting for over $300 less than what it should have been renting a month. All right, $300 a month less than what it should have been, and it's because the tenant's been there for 15 years. So what? And the tenant, by the way, the tenant wants to stay there. Yeah, of course. Look at what they're paying a month.
Absolutely. If I were to walk into any apartment complex and say I want to rent month to month, what's the first answer you usually hear?
Fine, you'll pay a premium.
No, the answer is usually no, we don't do that. But the second answer is what you just said.
A premium with a high premium on the rent.
Quite a premium. So if rents were $1,000 a month for a 1-year lease, you might be paying $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month for a month-to-month lease starting off. So why as investors, why as landlords do we permit this? And the answer that I constantly hear, and you guys probably do too, is they're a really good tenant. What happens is, as investors, we let our tenants almost become our friends. This is a business. And I'm not telling you to be heartless or anything, but what's heartless is when somebody raises rents after 4 or 5 years by 3% of the total of those 5 years. If I only raise it $30 a year, that's not a big increase. That's very easy to swallow, correct?
Yeah.
In each year. Go ahead.
Yeah, you need to have that in your plan systematically where you're going to raise your rent to. Now, granted, you could, just like ROIs, you know, you get a bigger return in a rougher neighborhood. If you've got an excellent tenant, instead of raising them $100 next year, raise them $75. Give them a break because they're an excellent tenant. They take care of the property, you know. So you can make those adjustments, but just leaving it where it's been each year, you're doing yourself a disservice on your return.
Right. I've got a deal going right now, and the leases were signed 8 years ago. So 7 years they've been on a month-to-month lease with the same original rents. That landlord did him
for the tenant, man.
home run for the tenant, but the landlord did himself no favors because he lost the rents over that time. But if he would have systematically raised those rents, wouldn't this property appear to have much more value when he goes to sell it? I'm seeing heads shaking up and down. Absolutely. So that's the key to what we're talking about here. The number one mistake that real estate investors make isn't buying bad. It's not managing the properties in the right way, not systematically raising those rents. We're talking about one topic here from an investment standpoint, systematically raising rents, but what about the equity gains that you get when you purchase a property? What about the tax advantages? Those are all things in addition to cash flow that we rarely even touch on, but have a huge impact.
Well, I'm sorry, I might take you off track, but
No.
that's a big thing with ROIs. I mean, you look at return on investment. It's a much better ROI to look at than cash on cash, and it's taking that in consideration. And we take those 5 years down the line in any time we analyze a property for you, and that's without appreciation. You can also look at it with appreciation, but we call that frosting on the cake. Appreciation is frosting on the cake, but you will see a higher appreciation in certain neighborhoods than you will in others. So you do have that to consider too, based on the property value. You might start with a lower ROI, but it's still a better return than you get putting your money in the bank, putting your money in the stock market today. You're getting a good ROI, a steady ROI in a safe neighborhood where it's going to continually be rented. I mean, that's just in the long run, that's just money in the bank for you.
And another reason to continue raising those rents, make sure you're doing that on a yearly basis. Your costs are also going up. If you're buying in a safe neighborhood, those property taxes they're not staying the same for 5 years at a time, 7 years at a time. So if you've gone 7 years without raising rents in a property, you're really hurting yourself as well, and your returns, and overall goal of 100,000 or whatever by not raising those rents, because you're now actually losing ground on what
right. You're actually making less money every year.
Yeah, great point, Corey. I love that you brought that up. So we're talking about planning and goals, and most of the calls that I get, they talk about cash flows, and I don't know the answer for sure because I never get it. Are we using those cash flows for our income right now, or are we planning for the future? Because ideally, you're planning for the future. This is a way to increase if you're going to have Social Security and income in retirement. This is going to give you an extra $8,333 a month along with your Social Security. Now, what if we use some more math and we put those cash flows, instead of putting them in our pocket each month, what if we took them and we applied them to the mortgage? What if we took out a 15-year mortgage when we purchased it? How much would that accelerate this vehicle and build equity in properties and give you the ability to buy even more? Because you can use the equity, take equity out in a refinance and buy another property. There's all kinds of advantages by simply raising rents that you're going to increase your cash flows, and you can use them in different ways to accelerate this investment vehicle to really make your retirement enjoyable. So that's it. I think we already gave this away, but the number one investor mistake is failing to raise rents annually from 3 to 5%. It could be more based on the year. It could be less based on the year, but we want to have an average over time of 3 to 5%. Letting leases expire and going month to month is not the answer. Okay. Anybody else got anything input on this from their experiences?
I just think you need to analyze what your return on investment is, and it doesn't have to be huge as long as it's making sense.
When I talk about those home run properties versus the base hit properties, it's actually flip-flop. It's just the numbers on paper look like a home run, but every time somebody sends me one of these so-called home runs, I go out to the property, The basement wall is about to cave in. There's asbestos wrapped around the ductwork. There's a little bit of lead-based paint over here that I can eat those
You're
chips.
wearing a bulletproof vest.
I mean, on paper it seems like it's a gold mine, but when you get there, you realize I'm going to have a ton of eviction problems. I'm going to have all kinds of late rent problems. I'm going to have all kinds of problems with the property. It's just it stacks up. But people are looking for those home runs when the reality is that little duplex that's an all brick ranch with a new roof and some newer windows that didn't cash flow the way you thought it would in year one, it sure does cash flow real nice in year 10 because you can systematically raise those rents probably even higher than 3 to 5% because you're buying right up front. You're buying a property that's in great condition, usually in a better location, and you have a reason to increase those rents.
And the other thing too, Blaise, is again back to the home run scenario. The best time to invest is now. The longer you wait, the higher price you're paying, could be higher interest rates you're paying, rents. If you can get something out, that's why it doesn't. If it's cash flowing for you now and making sense now, it may not be, over the top, but it will. But you need to do it now and not wait to do it. We'll talk you out of properties that are in a negative or are going to be a problem. I mean, that's what we do. We talk people out of properties all day long. But you've got to make the right moves on the right properties and not just look for those huge numbers.
I tell you what, I talk 99% of my clients out of the home runs because they're never really home runs. I've coined a term, I call it failing forward. We got to go look at the property so you can see just how bad it is, even though on paper it's a home run. But now that you realize your home run is not there, let's go look at this base hit. Let's look at that duplex that has brick and a new roof and a new furnace and all this stuff and doesn't really cash flow in year one, but in year 5 and in year 10, the property sure does make sense. Don't get caught slipping on your rents. Failing to raise your rents annually 3 to 5% is that number one mistake.